So, I know I am late with this one. However, I did watch the game live, and I wanted to rewatch it in detail by myself a bit later on. And I have to say, I mean, I wouldn't be lying to you if I said that I was not emotional watching that performance, especially in the second half by Wales. Really, to try and avoid cliches, this was a game of two halves. This was Scotland being able to play the game they wanted, not having too much pressure on them in the first half, being allowed to play freely. Wales with poor kicking, which didn't go away in the second half, and we'll get into that. But poor kicking allowing Scotland to counter-attack in their magical ways. You know, I run out of superlatives to talk about Finn Russell and his skill set, and obviously Van der Merwe almost got a hat-trick in this game as well. But then we went in for half-time. Wales still didn't score any points. And we even started the second half with Scotland scoring another try. Again, this was Van der Merwe. This was his second try of the game. A little bit about Van der Merwe for me. He's quickly turning into one of my favourite players to watch. He has a running style that I don't think has a rugby union comp, from what I can see. He's so powerful a runner that he almost can't turn properly, quickly, like some other really good wingers. But he turns just enough to create a bad angle for the defender trying to tackle him. And because he has that power combination and that turning, just enough turning circle, he can just create some great angles. And when he's given space and he gets up to full speed, there's just no stopping him. I've written here, for those of you that are also NFL fans, I think the biggest comp I can think of for Van der Merwe, for me, is Cordero Patterson, who's an NFL player. If you don't know who that is, Google him, YouTube him, watch some of his highlights, and you'll see what I mean. He's just so quick and so powerful with just enough turning circle that he can find the space when he's running. But then after that try, things started to break down for Scotland. Wales never gave up. They never threw in the towel, which I think for a very inexperienced team, when you're down 27 points, would be very easy to do. Everyone could have started with their sagging heads and losing faith in the plan, with not a lot of leadership on the pitch in terms of lots of caps. But they didn't. They kept attacking, they kept doing their thing. And ultimately, their efforts were rewarded with 2 penalties that put them in the right position to go for a try. They go for the maul. They set up the maul beautifully. They managed to set the maul and then change the point of attack of the maul to somewhere that's weak in the Scottish line. And they also earned themselves a yellow card by the hooker for Scotland collapsing the maul. And everything started to turn around at this point. It became all Wales. They managed to get the ball in really opportune places. I felt like they had possession for the majority of the second half up until probably the last 10 or 5 minutes. And they really used it well. Now, that's a very simple explanation of what's happened. But what I noticed, and I think was the difference in why they were so successful, is they really attacked Scotland where they looked really tired. And that was the forward pack. I felt like Scotland's forward pack did not look fit. They did not look like they could last a full 80 minutes if they were pressed. I mean, let's give this some context, right? First half was all Scotland. It's, for those of you that have played the game, you know, it's much easier from a tiredness point of view to be in attack rather than defending. And I felt like it was all Scotland in the first half. We get to 55, 60 minutes, and there's some knowable faces within that Scottish pack that start to look really tired. And it's kind of why they were caught being on the wrong side of the ball, why they got caught being offside, why they were collapsing mauls. You could see it off the ball stuff as well. You could just push them over. They were that tired. But I want to give credit to Wales. I mean, that's a criticism of Scotland and their pack's fitness, which I think is worrying for them. It almost feels like they have to get a lead in the game and then try and just like wear teams down enough where it's not like they have such a high score. That feels like their only way that they can win if a fitness is an issue for their forward pack. But to talk about Wales, again, they recognise this. A lot of people would be thinking, okay, why are Wales taking so many tap and go penalties when they get the penalties in the territory? And I thought it was incredible. It was so intelligent. They saw that the Scottish pack was breathing out their butt, like could not gasp enough air. And instead of going for, okay, we're going to go for a line out or we're going to go for a scrum, suck in players, they realised that their advantage really was in their fitness levels. They're much younger. They can run around the park more. And so the tap and go, it stops Scotland from being able to take a breather, sit down, take in some gas. And this ultimately led to the 2 tries after that. They managed to keep the pressure on. They wanted pace in the game. And, oh man, it was amazing to see. And the reason that I got emotional watching this is because Wales showed so much character. I mean, as I said, they could have thrown in the towel at such an early point, and they didn't. And then they had the intelligence with all that inexperience on the pitch to do what they did. I mean, the emotions in me is that, and this happens for all young teams in sports. Every now and again in sports, I mean, let's be real, like your idealistic turnover of a team that's probably aging to then bringing in younger talent. The perfect system is you have some veterans and then they kind of lead the way for the young guys. And then that identity is brought forward. And I feel like this is so characteristic of so many great teams. I think South Africa are like that. I think New Zealand are like that. American football teams, I think some of them are like that too. But again, this is rugby, not American football. I've talked about enough about American football in this video. Sometimes you get teams that, like Wales, are put in a bad situation in terms of not having any experience in their side. And the formula that this usually goes in is they take a few games to try and find an identity. They look clunky. They make rookie mistakes. They can't win a game to save their lives. Their execution isn't good. And they don't know how to close out games. What I saw in this game, and I noted this at the 65-minute mark, they found an identity within 60 minutes of playing together. Do you know how unbelievable that is? It's incredible. The amount of times you see a young team and you talk about the potential and the player from here, and then people have to try and talk themselves into believing in a team for 5 to 10 games, maybe less, maybe 4 games to try and find an identity. These guys did it within 60 minutes. And it's a never give up attitude, being incredibly fit and quick round the park, good maul, especially from line out. Their line out in general needed some work. I mean, and the scrum as well. So you might have forgotten this because at the end of the game, there was a scrum penalty that was given to Scotland. But at the beginning of the game, Scotland seemed like they were dominating the scrum as well. I was a bit suspect of Leon Brown. They didn't look so great. But within 1 or 2 scrums, they managed to fix the issue and they actually turned it into a strength for themselves, which was really impressive. Usually, if a scrum is dominant in a game, unless you make a substitute, it's not going to change. That's just the way it is. But Wales managed to change things within the game, within the scrum, that managed to just tighten things up. Man, the amount of character in this Wales team is so heartening to see. And it's why we love rugby union. This is, for me, I think this is probably my favourite game that I've watched since probably quarterfinals of the World Cup, I'm just thinking of the 2 semi-finals. Was Ireland, New Zealand semi-final? It might have been. It might have been quarter-final. I think it was semi-final was South Africa, England, and then the other semi-final was New Zealand, Argentina. So yeah, I think it was quarter-finals of the World Cup. I've felt this good about a rugby game. Those two games that I was talking about, I think probably the France-South Africa game and the Ireland-New Zealand game, probably two of my favourite games in recent history. But this, for me, borders on that. It was great to see. That's a lot of Wales. Some Scottish notes. The pack, put them on an assault bike from like now until, should have been Monday until Thursday this week. Some positive notes. Tuipulotu. I've definitely messed his name up. But the 12 for Scotland, truly sensational. And it allows a fly half like Finn Russell to be creative. You know, play breaks down. I've talked about this with other players and what they do for fly halves. Play breaks down, ship it to him, he can make some yardage, it's fine. We need a direct runner or a dummy runner. He's there, great. And his passing, he was a perfect mix of power, speed, but also good ball handling skills. He was magnificent, and I'm a big fan of his. I look forward to seeing how he plays in the rest of the tournament, to be honest with you. And we're going back to Wales again. I have to talk about Wales. I know they lost, I know they did, and that's what's important, but Thomas Williams coming on in the second half changed the game. I just felt like he was a lot more decisive in attack. He understood the game, the pace of the game had to increase for Wales to at least have a chance. And he was great. And they were one knock on, one forward pass, one messed up line out away from winning this game. And man, as an England fan, I am nervous about England-Wales this weekend because I was thinking about why I'm nervous. It's because this identity for Wales is new. And it means that you can do videotape study as a coach, as a head coach, as Steve Borthwick, or the coaching staff in general. You can do tape study of Wales, of the last game, but there's nothing really before that to sort of take into an evaluation in terms of what you're expecting. So you only see them in one situation, in one game, and there's only so much you can learn from that. And what can you learn? Okay, so they have a strong wall. We've got to be able to defend that. They like to play at pace. We just need to be really clean in defence. Maybe not commit too many people in the breakdown to make sure we have numbers. These are things we can do. But what if there's something else about this Welsh team that nobody knows? Not even the Welsh players know until they start playing it. What if there's something else there that you can't really prepare for? That makes me very nervous for this weekend. And it's great. I mean, it feels like we've got 6 competitors, this Six Nations, and that's really, really good to see. So that's it. I don't really want to muddy it with any of the other notes that I've had. I think I've said enough. There's other things that I've missed, sure, but man, I think I've said all I wanted to say. It was a great game. I loved it. I hope you did too.